Hello, Matrix Live. Ben here, and I'm here with Nico from Nheko. Hello.
Yeah, that's certainly no coincidence that the name matches so well with my name.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. The weather's not that nice today, so
No.
perfect for recording
Where are
something.
you in the world?
I'm in Germany, in Bavaria.
Mm-hmm. And are you a student in the middle of your exams, is my last thought.
No. Yeah, no, kind of. The exams were a few weeks ago, and now I have my break before the other exams, so...
Okay. Are you two types of exam, is it?
No, it's usually that we have the first try and the second try, but then during COVID, it's kind of everything messed up. So
okay, all right, yeah. COVID's created a lot of problems here for education too.
Yeah.
And what are you studying? Something with technology?
No, I don't know. I'm studying physics,
Okay.
and I'm doing that because I want to know how the world works, and then because it's really frustrating if you see something and you don't understand it. And yeah, that's kind of was the point where I started studying it, and then it kind of grew. And yeah, I'm working as a student in doing software development for someone else, because I thought, yeah, just studying something is boring. You also need to do something. And
yeah, so you've got the vocational and the theoretical. I like the idea that you are studying physics to understand the way the world works. That's like starting at almost the very bottom of everything, and then working your way up into the new world.
That's kind of how physics works. So I think that matches it, because there are many ways to cut the world into chunks and understand it, and physics is probably one of the things that really starts at the bottom, and then you don't understand anything really, but you understand some little things or some really big things, but nothing that is actually useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't expecting to start off so philosophically on this call. I think is it Carl Sagan? Maybe it's not actually his quote, but it's attributed to him. To make a pie, then you must first create the universe.
Yeah, kind of.
Otherwise, you're not starting from scratch. All right, let's talk about the real topics. So you're studying physics, but you have obviously a very strong interest in technology. What are your sort of interests there? I know Nheko is using Qt and C++, but what are you really interested in?
Well, I'm mostly interested in performance optimization and privacy. So that actually fit really well, because most matrix clients are pretty slow. If you or at least at the time when I started, they always felt slow in my browser or where I used them. And then Nheko was fast enough, and then I just made it faster, and now
you did make it
not
faster.
as annoying.
So all right, let's dive in on the Nheko side then, because we're jumping around a bit. Let's dive in on Nheko. You inherited the project. Nheko was started by a fellow Mujex.
I have no idea how to pronounce that name.
I don't know if it has an English pronunciation. And then somebody called Red Sky appeared and started to do maintenance. And then you appeared, and you've really been motoring along with that for a while now.
Yeah, you see, I'm studying physics, and I'm not really good at studying, so I always do something else. And so that's kind of why I did a lot for Nheko, because it was just something where I had some stuff that annoyed me, and I just fixed those issues, or at least started fixing those issues, and not spent as much time studying as I should. And so
it was a welcome distraction, procrastination.
Yeah, it's most of my work was motivated by not doing other work. So.
Naturally. Okay, in that case, I feel like we've jumped around a bit, but we should rewind again. Why did you want to have a matrix client at all? If your frustration was the matrix clients you found were not performance enough, why not just use Telegram?
Because I kind of have to use WhatsApp for some people. I have to use Telegram for some others, and then some people message me on Steam and expect me to read it. And
I get that.
Okay, Matrix kind of has the tools to do that, so that you actually receive the messages and don't have to run 3 apps or 20 apps at the same time, because I feel like there only more apps by the time, and not that ever become less apps. But And so I kind of set up a matrix server, then I set up some bridges, and then I actually needed a client to connect to it. And Riot at the time worked for it, but it was I only had 4 gigabytes of RAM, and I had 300 rooms by the time already, and that was kind of pushing it at the time. I think it's become got a lot better, but Nheko worked better for that.
Yeah,
because it didn't. It actually is the only client that I use and that doesn't keep my fans running all the time. So
yeah. I've started using. I'm using a Mac right now, but I've started using Nheko as well, and yeah, it's really getting somewhere. With the recent additions of reactions and replies, it's really quite usable. The one thing I'm missing is edits.
Yeah, edits are a long story. That's probably the feature that I'm not going to implement soon, because I don't really like how the spec does it. Because if you look at replies, they have a fallback representation where you put most clients just put the whole old message into it and then wrap it in a MX reply tag, and then you get a lot of fun security issues and other things where redactions don't work anymore. You can sometimes embed fun other code inside a reply that then Element or other clients put into your message, and then it looks like you wrote something else that you didn't write. That's just a whole can of worms, and then edits just do the same thing and also have a fallback defined where they just put the whole old message the whole edited message twice inside it, but one time they put a little asterisk before it, because then you have a fallback representation.
Right, exactly,
and I think it's pretty annoying to do that just for a single asterisk. There are some clients like the Slack bridge that does it smarter and then has a smart SID-like tag or something, what you actually edited. But I simply don't like fallbacks. And they also have, for native clients, they have a few issues where if you edit a message to be of a different type and that is not explicitly prevented by the spec, then you need to have a combination of those types defined in your code so that you can actually pass the event. And it's
why
a big kind of worms.
Why wouldn't you just replace one with the other? Why would you need to have both? Am I missing something?
If you try to be generic and have an SDK that can do both, so that you don't have to implement in your client right in the beginning, then you need to also keep the fallback representation and the new representation alive.
Okay. And
so you need some way to put both of those into, and if you have then a statically typed system, then you run into the fun that you need to have n times n type combinations that you have to support, kinda.
Okay, I see that.
There are ways around it, but I haven't found a way that I like. So until I figure something out, I'm just not going to.
The nature of events is that they are essentially dynamic JSON blocks, though. Surely you'd have this same problem with any unknown message type, event type.
Yeah, Nheko has the issue that it just simply doesn't display what it doesn't support. So.
Okay. All right. I mean that's a deviation from the spec, though, right? It just happens to only support the IM features.
Yeah, kind of. But it's just like Element doesn't show you your location messages. So.
Right. I mean, to be honest, I use Element with it turned on, with the show hidden messages turned on.
Yeah, I do that too, because it's very useful to debug issues that you have. But
I like it that way. But yeah, I can understand why the default is to hide all the unknown messages, because it's super noisy to use it that way. All right, so you came into Nheko, when it was essentially complete, and then you've been working, or functionally complete, and you've been adding to it since then. How did you find it to come into a sophisticated project. You know, it's a C++ project. It's not something that's very easy to pick up for anybody. How was it to come into that as an existing project as opposed to starting your own thing?
I think it's I simply had a few issues that I was specifically looking for, and so I just started putting debug breakpoints somewhere in the code to find where actually it was going wrong. And I think that helps a lot to get familiar with a new code base. If you just are looking for specifically some issue that you are trying to fix because it annoys you so much that you actually open your code editor to fix it, and then it just simply goes from there. The code wasn't bad when I looked at it. It was actually it has a nice structure in my opinion. So it was actually alright to understand it, but it was of course a little bit bigger than I was used to. And then, but it's also that at my workplace I usually get a lot of old projects dumped on me, and then I have to fix something or everything. And if you most of the code you have to look at is older than you and written in C before it was standardized, then you kind of get used to dealing with such things, I think.
All right, so it's a combination of you being motivated to get it fixed, and you know, the willingness to sit through and watch debug points fly by and change them. Yeah,
I think that the anger-driven debug programming is one of the most important things we have today to actually get something done.
So, okay, maybe this isn't a point of anger then, but it's a point of frustration for a lot of people. Can you tell us about the GStreamer work you've been doing? You've been adding voice calls to Nheko.
Well, you may attribute it to me, but it was actually not me doing that. It was some random contributor I never heard of before, who just came and then had a full, mostly working voice call support there and said, yeah, here, I made this, please take it. Or
wow.
No, they were actually communicating a bit before already to, I want to work on this, but they basically did it on their own, and then just I pointed out some issues, and then we merged it, and it was
wow. Okay, so I mean, it was a relatively small piece of work for the maintainer. Sometimes in that situation, you find yourself having to do loads of code reviews.
No,
not too bad.
They were actually pretty good at what the code they wrote. So I basically only tested it a few times and then pointed out that this doesn't work, and then it actually doesn't work. Then they fixed it, and
brilliant.
Also,
and you're currently dependent on waiting for something from GStreamer's side, I think. Yeah,
GStreamer has WebRTC support since 1.16 or 1.14, but it is still an unstable feature, and as such it does have some issues. Like the first issue we ran into was that it didn't pass the username correctly that you need for turn server negotiation, and it basically you usually have your password does have a double colon in it, and then you that's also the delimiter for username and password. And then if you have the same character in the password, you do need to escape it so that it doesn't get split at that point. But GStreamer first did the de-escaping and then split it, and so it always split at the wrong position, and so you could never auth at the turn server. They did fix that now, but the version isn't released as far as I'm aware, and there are some other issues that we are now running into after that issue is fixed. So
yeah, of course. I mean, you don't know what bugs you have until you have it, fully deployed. Okay.
As long as you're not using a turn server, it does seem to work quite well. But as soon as you need to hit the turn server, it does have some issues. But turn servers are always fun. So
I don't profess to to know about that. My experience is that it's a maintenance job. All right.
Yeah.
Let's think about. I guess the question was what's next, but I know you had. You've been quite vocal. You've had some thoughts about the spec progress and the forces that impact the spec.
Yeah, it's like I already mentioned with edits. It's just that edits and reactions were a feature that simply landed in Element, and then everyone thought, yeah, that feature is ready, and then they came to other client developers and then asked, yeah, when will you have reactions? When will you have edits?
Yeah.
And then I had to explain to them that there is a spec change request for that, but that doesn't actually match the reality, what's actually implemented in clients and servers at the moment. So we can't use that for as an implementation. We basically have to reverse engineer Element to do our implementation that is compatible with Element.
Yeah.
And then it's sometimes hard to explain that why we can't simply implement it because it's hard to explain that we do not have the requirements to do so, or why Element sells it as a ready feature when it actually kinda isn't, but it works. And
yeah, it's tough. It's tough to. The problem is that you need a working example of the spec in the wild before you can really. Otherwise, you just end up bug shedding it forever. And yet at the same time, to have the spec ready for somebody in your position to be able to implement it. And it could be said that in the past, Riot and the spec were more out of sync than they are now.
Yeah.
And I would hope that things are better, but as an example, reactions were something that needed to be implemented, and the spec should have caught up quicker than it did.
Yeah, there were a lot of issues like that in the past, but it's really improved a lot. And I think as a client dev, if you spend some time with it, you do understand it, but you still have to communicate it with the users of your client why that is an issue. Like there was also an issue with key exports in the past where Riot implemented it, then the spec was wrong, then they fixed the spec, although it was already published. So the thing that Nheko implemented that was actually matching the spec didn't actually work with Riot. So everyone opened the issue at our client, although it was matching the spec. Then the spec changed without us really noticing. So everything was, it was actually a valid bug report. And yeah, it's because this, the spec is actually one of the greatest strengths of Matrix, where it is an open document that is fairly easy to read, and you can't just implement stuff reading from it. But as it's also a developing thing where you have to push the envelope always a bit. So there are always those fringe features that are a bit troublesome, but I think it's improving a lot, especially if other clients implement it, say the spec doesn't work like that, and then
yeah, I mean, so the one of the strengths, I guess, is to have multiple client developers, and we have client developer rooms where basically the complaints that you have here can be aired and discussed. It's a shame that you've been burned multiple times on some of these things, but yeah,
we are trying to just turn it around and then push our features into the spec, and then the Element guys have trouble with it.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to pay them back.
Yeah. You're going. Yeah. All right. It's all going to come back around. Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear that. What there is now, I think, is a bit more dialogue around spec features. And also catching up. Sorry, the spec and the implementations are more in sync. So I would use SSO as an example of this, where we had spec and documentation for how to implement SSO available pretty quickly after that was a Mozilla feature, and that was made available quite quickly.
And I think also a lot of clients actually support it at this point. Even Nheko supports it because I just felt the itch one day. So
yeah, I mean, and I think that especially when you've got a demand from the users, then that's the motivator. Which is why I want edits. Edits would have me on Nheko much more often.
I see. So there is some demand. Maybe I just have to.
There's demand from me.
No, I think there were at least 10 people who already told me that I should implement that.
Cool. So Nico, it's been great talking to you. And we're going to pretend that I didn't just screw up the recording and...
No one noticed the cut or anything.
No.
Or that you...
Is there anything else you wanted to add? I feel like we've talked quite a lot. We've attacked the spec process, and we've talked about Nheko's many features. But is there anything you wanted to add?
There was something I actually added once before someone actually dropped half of the recording. But basically, I just wanted to thank everyone who's been contributing to Nheko, because there are a lot of people that just come up and have some features they want to implement, or they don't even have a feature they want to implement, but they want to help out the project. And that's the power of open source, where people just come together and say, yeah, I have something I want to fix, and then they can just do that. And it's been a lot of fun just helping them to find something to work on, or helping them implement something, answering their questions, and just working together to make Nheko better, because most of the things I don't actually want to do, because I think they are annoying to implement and it doesn't bother me enough to implement them myself.
Right.
But other people are bothered enough by it, so they do it. And that's what actually makes Nheko better, because I just usually implement the big features that I want, and then miss the polish that's actually easy to get people started.
Yeah. I mean, so community is such a huge part of it, and making sure that you've got the right features for everybody is a big aspect of that, I guess.
Yeah, it's everyone. If you contribute to a client, you make it a bit of your own client that fits your personal usage patterns, and so you can actually build the client you want. If you like I did, I just started from a base that was kind of matching what I wanted, and then I just took a big hammer and bent it into shape that actually fits me better, maybe someone else less. And yeah, everyone can do that, and it's been a lot of fun working together on this.
Awesome. All right, thank you. I think that re-recording was better than the first time, so maybe we should be happy that we did.
But were you unhappy with my first recording?
The first one was awful. The second one was perfect. All right, Nheko, thank you very much. Thank you for Matrix Live, and bye, Nheko.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.